So this is the opening of our scheduled Conservation Commission meeting for the town of Norton. It is Monday, March 23rd, 6:31. Attending tonight we have myself, Julian Kadish, Chair, Lisa Carosa, Vice Chair, Bill Horde, Dan Pearson, Mark Fernandez, Joe Carvalho, and Courtney Miller. Also in attendance in town hall with me are our Director, Tom Thomas, and our Assistant, Megan Hart. And we have an audience here in the Winnicott room, and then everyone else is in the Zoom. So first item of business is meeting minutes of February 23rd. I was not in attendance on that meeting because I was snowed in and had no electricity and no internet. So Lisa, you were chair, so technically because I wasn't here I can't really act on these. There were some minor corrections that we dealt with on page 3 and 4 where my name appears inappropriately, but that's being edited, and my name correctly appears in the absent column. So Lisa, if you want to field any discussion on the minutes?
Yeah. Does anybody have any questions or comments, corrections?
Fine to me.
Okay. So is that a motion, Dan?
Oh, in that case, it's a motion, yes.
All right.
Motion to accept the minutes.
Okay.
Seconded.
Motion by Dan. I think Courtney beat you to it, Mark. To accept the meeting minutes for February 23rd, 2026. Is that, yeah, February 23rd. Roll call vote, Dan and Courtney.
Aye.
Aye.
Joe and Mark.
Aye.
So, Joe, I think you're on mute.
Aye.
There you go. I'll vote aye. And I assume you abstain, Julian?
I abstain, and you'll at some point have to come in and sign the minutes in the future. All right, thank you. Next on the agenda is violation discussion. I don't know if there's anything new for the two that are listed.
So Sophie Esdale is here from Goddard Consulting to talk about 181 West Main Street. She's going to give us an update.
All right, Sophie, you're on.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Sophie Esdale. I'm a wetland scientist with Goddard Consulting. I'm representing the property owner, Hitesh Patel. So since the previous meeting, we have been working towards a septic design, as previously discussed. We do have a perk test scheduled with the Board of Health for April 6th. So once we have those perk tests completed, we'll work towards a septic system design. It's projected around end of April after talking with Riser Engineering. John Keelty is also looking to obtain a variance from Board of Health for the proposed use of one of the retail areas. This meeting is for April 6th. So once we have that variance obtained and then also the perk tests are completed for the septic design, we'll look to have that finalized design towards the end of April. Then we'll submit a notice of intent with the septic design and the mitigation plantings with the commission. So any questions from the commission at this point, I'd be happy to answer.
I have a quick question. Where do we stand with the patio that was pulled?
With the patio, sorry, go ahead.
The patio to the rear of the building, how do we stand, where do we stand on that now?
So I believe we are keeping that as of right now. We'd be happy to discuss any alternatives with the commission, but we were looking to do mitigation for 2 to 1 and that's included within that mitigation number.
So I guess my questions, Sophia, are, obviously, there's gonna be a lot of mitigation that's required for the riverfront alterations and things of that nature. Do you guys have numbers all set up for that? Is that
We
something?
do, yeah.
Okay,
So we had sent over a quantification of that where we had done a historic review of all impacts after 1996.
right.
So the total mitigation is about 14,364. And of course, if there's any additional impact proposed with the septic design, temporary or permanent, we'll also include that in mitigation.
Okay, so that was the point that I was leaning towards, is understanding that the septic design is also gonna have to be quantified in that as well. Okay, so I guess we're gonna look forward to seeing those numbers and all that information. Do you think by the next meeting that we have, do you think that seems sufficient?
So after talking with Tyler from Riser Engineering, he's projecting a finalized plan towards the end of April. So we would probably aim for that, I believe, May 11th deadline submittal. So hopefully a quick turnaround as soon as we get those finalized plans.
And then you're gonna quickly be able to put on all the mitigation plantings that month? Is that kind of the plan?
As of right now, it does depend on how the hearing process goes. We did include in our mitigation that it would either be the spring growing season or fall. So obviously, if we're able to, we'll try to get those in by this growing season. But if not, then the projected fall growing season.
Okay.
So I guess I would ask that if you could come before us at the end of April, the 427 meeting, to tell us what your progress is, and do we really have to wait until the fall to rectify a violation? Is there anything you can get a jump start on this spring?
So we did want to include the mitigation plantings in that notice of intent, so that would be a part of the hearing process. So once we get that in, then the first hearing we attend, and any questions from the commission with that after we get the final septic.
Okay, why are we waiting for the notice though? Wouldn't we just be voting on a restoration plan, John Thomas? Why are we waiting?
I think part of it is this, right? Is that for all the alterations that have occurred already on the property, there's gotta be restoration that comes after that. Then obviously there's the second phase where they're gonna need a septic system in light of their whole situation with the building and whatnot. So
Yeah.
one way or another, you're gonna have to put in the mitigation plants regardless of whether you put in a septic system. So I guess the question is, I mean, it would be great to, see that, for instance, there's gonna be some restoration efforts that are gonna be fast-tracked in the interim while you're still working, so you're doing multiple things at once. I think that's kind of something that we'd be looking for, but obviously that's for the commission to decide, but I think that's kind of what I would be looking for, something along that line.
And in
Yeah,
terms of, sorry,
I
go
don't
ahead.
see this dragged on any further, and I don't want to wait for a notice of intent for a septic system. You're not gonna lose a whole season because you're waiting to get a notice of intent for a septic, which is not ideal. So I need to separate the two things. So I would like to see a planting plan, and I would like to see it implemented this spring.
Could I just make a quick point through the chair? So in terms of why we're kind of doing it in congruence is because we don't want to put the current plantings down and damage the current septic system. I mean, it's a lot of mitigation area, and where we're just still designing where the septic system and the leaching field will be. Putting down plantings and potentially damaging the existing leaching system would not be ideal either. So that's why we were kind of doing the mitigation plantings with the septic systems design in congruence with one another.
But there's probably only a few places on the property that you could put the leaching field, right? So to my mind, the strategy would be to plant in areas that you know absolutely you can't house the leaching fields. And then from there, you leave your options open for leaching fields.
Thank you. You took the words out of my mouth.
Understandable, but we're potentially looking at the leaching field possibly being under the parking lot. We're still doing tests to determine where the existing leaching field is. So if we were to put plantings down where they're currently proposed on the plan that I had shown at the previous meeting, we don't want to cause any damage to the existing leaching field. And we're still determining whether or not it's feasible to put it under the parking lot as well.
So it sounds like, sorry Lisa, it sounds like to me that you could stake out the leaching field where it currently stands, and work around that and plant around that area, so that way you give yourself enough room, or the contractor enough room to do the work that they need to make whatever connections they need to out to the front, if that's where the design's going to go. I've seen a couple of these, issues happen, and they've worked around it. The contractors are very good at keeping to the limits, and if you put sediment controls down, you could definitely do that. So, I personally think that there should be some action taken. Obviously, I don't get to make a decision on this, but I think that the board also feels my sentiment to this, that we want basically some sort of restoration efforts for the alterations that were done within the riverfront area.
So, can we look forward to a proposal for that restoration? And I don't know, the next meeting is April 13th. Does that sound like a possibility?
We can definitely discuss with our team and see if there's an option to kind of separate the mitigation and the septic. So we'll plan to be at the next meeting with an update on that.
All right, any further questions?
I have a quick one maybe.
Yeah.
Do we have a DEP number on this?
I don't think we have a file.
No,
No,
it's a
there's-
violation.
So the violation, so they should be two separate orders, correct? We have a violation,
Absolutely.
and any new work would be an order with a DEP number,
Correct.
Yeah,
correct? All right. So are we gonna address this as a violation, or are we going to not address this at all?
I think the plan is to address it as a violation as of right now, and then hopefully when they come in for a design alternative that's gonna work for their client, then for instance, whatever other additional mitigation they're gonna need for that, that's gonna offset, and we'll put additional mitigation in along with that. But I think it's obvious based on the information that Goddard has provided that alterations did occur out there and that they need to be resolved, so.
So in the best interest, I think we should make sure we keep this separate, so it doesn't drag on any longer.
All right, so we look forward to some kind of proposal or discussion on April 13th with regards to the mitigation work. Any further questions, discussion? And if not, we can move on, and thank you, Sophie.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So next violation is 292 West Main Street. Where we stand.
So I met with the owner of Downtown Pub last week. We walked the property, there was no snow on the ground. It appears that they put down some asphalt millings in the riverfront area, and I basically asked the landowner to consult a surveyor to quantify and basically survey the limits of that, so that way we can get a site plan and basically see how much disturbance has occurred within the riverfront area. I am not certain if it was asphalt millings in the past, but I noticed that they were fresh. I didn't see them previously versus looking at aerial photogrammetry. So they're gonna have to quantify that and basically come in similar to what we had over at 92 East Main Street, similar kind of plan to come in with something like that.
All right, sounds good. Are there any requested continuances? Not this round.
None as of right now.
And anything report from staff that we need to talk about?
I have to leave this meeting a little bit early. I have to go to the finance committee meeting, so I'll be leaving probably in the next 15 to 20 minutes. Just want to give you guys a heads up.
No closing.
Oh, and we can't close any projects this evening because the timeline window will be beyond our 21-day window. So I just wanted to keep the board, give them that information.
All right, so next up on the agenda is continued projects. File number 250-1203, 0 Pine Street, notice of intent, Wheaton Estates. Unfortunately, I missed the last meeting, in which there was voluminous discussion, but as I understand it, the stormwater review is complete. And I guess you guys recently went before planning here, so maybe Claire, you can tell us where you stand at this point.
Sure. For the record, Claire Hogeboom, wetland scientist with LEC Environmental Consultants, representing the applicant. We also have Bob Forbes with Zenith Consulting Engineers joining if there are any questions about the stormwater. But since the last meeting in February, we provided a response to comments letter to the Commission on March 5th. And that included a summary of responses to the discussion we had at the last meeting and a summary of some of the plan revisions. So if I may share my screen.
1 second, Claire, hold on.
Okay.
Should be all set.
Great. I'm going to pick that screen. Can you all see the set of plans?
It's coming.
Name, but I don't see.
Not yet.
Oh,
There we
there
go.
it is, okay, yeah. Mhm.
You see the set of the cover sheet of the plan set?
Correct.
Yes.
Great. So, first revision right on the cover page here, per the request of the Commission, we added a note in the left corner here on the cover sheet indicating the individual lots requiring notices of intents with the Commission. So we have that list here, so it's very clear for any, for the applicant down the road. Just scrolling down a couple more plan sheets, I'm going to go down to the PDF page 8. The engineer took a closer look at the 2 wetland crossings. We were discussing adjusting the 2 24-inch diameter culverts into open bottom box culverts, so the engineer was able to make that work with the design of the infrastructure beneath the crossing. So we have 2 4-foot wide by 2 foot tall open bottom box culverts at each crossing, or 1 at each crossing. I don't want to get that too confused. 2 total, 1 at each crossing. And Commission member Lisa also requested some clarity with the tight grading at the crossings, how they flare out to a 3-to-1 slope, a vegetated slope. So the engineer added some details. I'll just try zooming in a bit. So the engineer added some detail for the extent of riprap to continue and allow that continuation to the flare a little more realistically for the construction. And just on this next sheet for the second road crossing, there's our open bottom box culvert and some detail on the riprap. Go down just a few more plan sheets. So on this overall plan, at the last meeting we were discussing that the planning board requested that the applicant consider some alternatives with the 2 entrances off of Pine Street to alleviate any headlights from cars exiting the development in projecting their headlights onto neighbors across the street. So the engineer did shift the 2 entrances a little bit, but we are keeping both of the entrances. So with that in mind, the engineer did add a note at the bottom of the sheet to direct the contractor to identify 1 entrance and 1 exit from the site when they are constructed. Feasibly, I think they're gonna construct 1 entrance first, so they might be using that as an entrance exit for a time. But once the second location is identified and cleared, they'll use 1 designated entrance, 1 designated exit. And on this sheet and other sheets notably, the erosion controls have been depicted along the wetland crossing as well. So that's clearly defined with erosion controls being installed at the base of the proposed toe slope. And lastly, I think it's this plan sheet here, I wanted to point out that the engineer included some detailed sheets for the 2 wetland crossings, and that's a little clearer with the extent of riprap at each of the crossings as well. We also looked into the operations and maintenance plan. There was a comment about the snow and ice removal, that there was a little ambiguity to the language, so that has been made clearer for the homeowners association. And we reviewed the remainder of the document and didn't find any other ambiguous language, so it's pretty straightforward to direct the homeowners association to avoid chemical use for snow removal. We did go through a couple of other responses to comments in our letter, notably the engineer providing information regarding LID measures that were considered for the stormwater design. And again, Bob Forbes is on the call if we want to discuss that further. We also provided information regarding the timber guardrails and that they are preferred by the applicant to retain the aesthetics with the surrounding landscape. And the applicant will intends to install pressure-treated wood that will have a minimum lifespan of 40 years. And we also provided some information on the subsurface propane tanks, that the installation of those will be overseen by the fire department and by the plumbing inspector before any backfill. So those have the oversight of local officials. And I don't believe there's any real permitting involved with that. It's just notifying them and having them be on site before anything is backfilled and fully installed. And the tanks would be provided by a local propane supplier that's required to provide them in accordance with the most recent EPA and state standards, one of which is the tanks being constructed with a sort of secondary chamber that would monitor for any leaks. So it reduces the risk of leaks for these subsurface tanks, and if there is a leak, it would ideally be caught before it becomes an issue. So with that, I think that covers all of our responses. Oh, go ahead.
Just a quick question. So regarding snow and ice removal, can you remind me or show me on the plan where the snow is going? Like, is it being piled up somewhere on the property, or?
That is a good question. I'm not certain if there's a snow storage specification on this plan set. Bob, I know you're on the call. Do you have on the top of your head if that's contained within any other document?
Hi, Mr. Chairman, this is Bob Forbes from Zenith Consulting Engineers. No, we didn't show it. It's typical that, I mean, it's going to be like any roadway. They're going to plow to the edges of the roads. We do not show specifically where it's going to go on these plans. In towards the end of the cul-de-sac, which is outside. Both cul-de-sacs are outside any buffer zone. So we just intend to plow it like a typical roadway.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think to that point, we're struggling with this because this is going to be private ownership, okay? So you're going to have a private entity trying to figure out where they can plow snow and store snow. So this, in my view, is not going to be handled like a typical subdivision where your DPW comes in and does what they need to do. So let's go back to the conditions. I'm going to ask you to put dedicated snow storage, or at least a note on the plans that says the snow storage is going to be outside of the buffer zone. And then we're going to cross-reference that with your O&M plan, if you can go back to that. I'm sorry, the O&M plan list, Claire? Okay. So I think we need to add something that said snow storage must be outside of the 100-foot buffer zone. And then the other recommendation I'm going to make is we need to clarify that statement that you have under number 5. Instead of is allowed, it should say is required. Right, again, this is going to lay people in a management company to implement. It needs to be bulletproof and very simple.
Easy to understand.
Yes, but thank you for making those other changes to the plan set, Claire.
I would just suggest that kind of says to me that you're telling the homeowners association to use chemical additives. If you're saying required.
No, it says without chemical additives, without.
Okay.
I mean, and if that's not, we'll put it this way, if this is not clear, we need to reword this sentence, okay? So maybe perhaps we should be putting a declarative statement that says the use of chemical additives is not allowed. as part of the snow,
That's
and
an
ice.
excellent suggestion, we'd be happy to.
Yeah, I think it's a little ambiguous the way it's written.
No, I agree, I totally agree with that.
Okay. So. I would say that there are no chemical additives allowed in conjunction with or part of the use of sand and salt.
Will do, yes, I agree that makes it much
Okay.
clearer.
Okay.
Lisa, you're all set?
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions from members of the commission?
I have a couple.
Yeah, go ahead.
As far as the lid standards, can you show us any areas that were improved with any of the natural as opposed to just this direct focus? Has there been any rain gardens added or any other grading to deal with this water in a different way?
I can address the rain garden things directly. On a subdivision roadway, we don't particularly care for the use of rain gardens. We do like them for like roof runoff, situations where you don't have the potential for floatable contaminants, which are, you know, what you would get off of drippings from vehicles. So we don't care to use them in parking lots. And we especially don't care to use them in a homeowners association because of the maintenance requirements become difficult. They're difficult to maintain, and they have a high failure rate if they're not maintained correctly. So we try to avoid rain gardens. In other words, if you get drippings from vehicles that are floatable, in our design, we have hooded deep sump catch basins, which will prevent some of the floatables from getting into the groundwater.
I absolutely understand that on hard impervious surfaces, but I'm talking more of the site grading in these areas. We're not seeing any, thing to deal with the sheet flow or anything other than this. Everything seems to be directed at the road and sent to.
Yeah, exactly. We want any impervious area directed into the roadway, so then it can get fully treated. In other words, we don't want, this is designed such that all driveways drain into the roadway system, so it can get collected and treated appropriately. 100% of the paved areas get collected and treated. So yeah, we don't want it flowing off the site untreated.
For that matter, so lids shouldn't exist in the world of subdivisions? I mean, that's like counterintuitive. That almost doesn't even make sense.
No, well, rain gardens aren't the only lid measure.
Right, so why don't you walk us through the lid measures that you've looked at for this project and which ones you introduced? I guess that's what we're looking for.
Claire, I don't have that lid document that I put together for you. Do you have that available?
I do. I can share that with the screen. This is from our response to comments that Bob helped collect the response here. So Bob, I can scroll down with you if you want to run through what you put together.
That's good. So the first one we took a look at, reducing impervious surfaces. So when we went to the planning board, obviously we wanted to do it for a couple of reasons. Number one, we always want to reduce impervious surfaces to reduce runoff and contaminants from the runoff. And number two, we wanted to minimize pavement width so we could make the crossing with as minimal impact as possible. So that's the first one that we took a look at, and that's where we ended up coming to an agreement with the planning board. We have the minimum that they're willing to accept there. Disconnecting flow paths. I wrote the proposed project has been designed to disconnect flow paths in multiple areas to reduce runoff. The placement of the roadways intercepts runoff patterns, collects the runoff, and discharges it to stormwater BMPs. The BMPs are designed to mitigate runoff rates as well as to improve the quality of the runoff from the site. stormwater basins are situated such that they will intercept stormwater runoff flows prior to important discharge areas on site. So all design areas of stormwater discharge are treated. Now that includes the basins are positioned in such a way that they collect all the roadway runoff, but also overlay runoff. And there's several instances we have swales directing lawn and wooded runoff from get into the basins. The interception flow paths limit the distance runoff from flow, thus preventing channelization of flow and subsequent possible erosive flow velocities. Then treating stormwater at its source. The proposed stormwater management system includes deep sump catch basins fitted with first offense water quality units such that oils and up to 75% of total suspended solids will be collected prior to stormwater continuing through the subsurface drainage system towards the infiltration basin. So we're taking out a lot of the TSS prior to arrival at the infiltration basins, which is a good idea because it prolongs the life of the infiltration basins as well. The infiltration basins are situated so that they are close to the source of runoff, namely the roads and proposed homes. These basins collect, infiltrate, and treat stormwater near the point that it is generated. It should be noted that most of the stormwater is proposed to be infiltrated within the basins in close proximity to the development. In the event of larger storm events, which there is a minimal amount of stormwater that will be discharged to the ground surface, there is significant distance between the infiltration basin discharge points and any down gradient wetland resource area. So we kept them close to the roadways, far away from the wetlands, in other words. Then we maximizing open space, minimizing disturbance. That's the whole idea of this cluster development. We have almost 25 acres of permanently preserved open space. And then there's another 14 acres on individual lots that are either in wetlands or in buffer zones and will remain wooded. So we're talking about, what's that total? Almost 39 acres being preserved of open space here, which is equal to approximately 70% of the total land area in the development. Protecting natural features and/or enhancing wildlife habitat. The proposed open space preserves a portion of the site that is mapped within NHESB priority and estimated habitat. Also included in the open space is potential vernal pool and riverfront area as well as wooded upland areas. The open space areas also abut adjacent open space and conservation land on other parcels. I'm sure most of all of you are familiar with the area. There are large open space areas that are permanent conservation land that abut the open space that we provide in this development. Then we look at I talk about the other LID measures such as country drainage or roadside swales to collect runoff when not chosen. And that's for that same reason. We find that contaminants more readily get into the groundwater when you utilize that country drainage system. Considering the site is within ACEC and Zone 2 wellhead protection area, it wasn't a preferred option. The proposed stormwater management system includes deep sump catch basins fitted with proprietary water quality units designed to collect oils and TSS prior to stormwater continuing through the subsurface drainage system towards the infiltration basins. The stormwater management system is designed to meet Mass DEP stormwater management standards and the local stormwater management bylaw and function as a maintenance-friendly system for the HOA to maintain. And that's getting back to the rain garden issue, which are not maintenance-friendly. In fact, one of the maintenance items that's listed in the stormwater management standards is to completely remove all vegetation and media, 30-inch deep media, and replace it. So that's certainly not essentially rebuild the rain garden. and as individual house lot developments are designed, smaller rain gardens to collect and treat water from roof downspouts and driveways will be considered. We don't need to do that because the stormwater system works without it, but we'd be happy to look at that, and it's certainly on the ones where we come back to you and require to submit a notice of intent when we're doing work within 100 feet of the wetlands on those individual lots. I don't know if that helps.
Did the planning board require any dry wells?
No.
Okay.
For roof runoff?
Yes.
No. We're collecting it. I personally don't like to put underground, if I can avoid underground systems, I do. And the reason for that is because when they fail, you can't see them failing. So we like to try to, if we have to, we'll do infiltration of roof runoff on individual house lots, but in this case, we're able to put it on the ground, direct all of that water into our stormwater management system, and treat it and mitigate the runoff rates.
Right, but you're not gonna clog your system on roof runoff, because potentially it's not gonna have sediment and pollutants. So a couple things I'd be looking for. The lots that are gonna come before us that are in the buffer zone, hope John Thomas is still around, because we have to remember to ask for some rain gardens on those. And then the ones that are not, I would look to have the dry wells. The planning board used to require that. Do they not require that anymore?
They do not. It was never mentioned. No, so if it's clean runoff, why would we have to put it into rain gardens?
I'm talking about the clean runoff going to a dry well, because you want to interject as much runoff in as many locations as you possibly can to spread it out, just like it is right now. Mother Nature, right? There's rainfalls all over the site, and you're just now taking it, collecting it, and putting it in select locations. So that's why we like to have the dry wells.
Yeah, not a problem. We're not gonna fight that when we come to you with individual house lots. We just find an incredibly high incidence of failure in putting roof runoff subsurface on lots.
And it fails why? Because it gets clogged. It shouldn't get clogged, because I mean, there's no potential pollutant source, right?
It's not pollutants, it's vegetative matter coming off the roofs. That's typically what does it.
I would ask, is Johnson there?
No, John had to go to his
Okay.
FinCom meeting.
Maybe if you can ask John to check with the status of why dry wells are no longer required by the planning board, because I remember at one time we commented on them all the time, and we were assured that the planning board had already required them.
Okay.
That's all I have. Thank you.
So, just curiosity, how long does it take these infiltrating systems to fail from that matter coming off the roof?
Well, it all depends. There are people who maintain their gutters on a year, a couple times a year, like I have to at my house. And there are other people that never do it. It also is a function of depth to groundwater. It's a function of the type of soils that you have on your lot. So if they're tighter, it's going to take a little bit long. It's going to take longer for them to dissipate, obviously, when they fill up. But what happens is most homeowners, you should, to be on the safe side, you should always put a Y connection at the bottom of your roof leaders. So when and if the subsurface systems do fail, they could act as regular downspouts again. In other words, the water seeks its own level, will no longer go down into the subsurface system. It will just discharge onto the ground, which it's nice to have it designed, the system designed to be able to handle that flow. And again, we're not going to fight those. If this commission wants those on the individual house lots, we're certainly not going to fight it. We've seen them fail in as soon as 5 years' time, in a worst case scenario.
All right.
I mean, if we went by everything failing and not maintenance, we wouldn't do anything. So I don't think that's a great reason. I honestly don't. Not buying it myself.
No, I'm not, Lisa, you don't understand, we're not arguing it.
Yeah, yeah. I just want to know why the planning board is not requiring it. And as the engineer of record, if you tell me the soils are conducive to it, great, but I need you to tell me that.
They may
So
or
we
may
need to
not,
explore that for the next hearing, but I think we need to move on.
Well, I mean,
we'd be happy to look at that on every individual house lot. If we can't, if we don't have depth of groundwater, we're obviously not gonna be able to do it.
well, so it could alternative structures that are on the surface, like swales, that would allow runoff to dwell longer than it would normally and allow more of it to sink in? Could that be an alternative design in some sites?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what they should be looking at, Julian, for the rain gardens, for those that I am going to insist on at some point when they come before us for the individual house lots. So it's either gonna be the dry well or the rain garden,
Well,
right? One or the other.
but it doesn't necessarily have to be a formal rain garden. I mean, it can be a swale in the grass that just allows the runoff to dwell longer on the grass to.
Exactly.
That's an excellent suggestion, and we simply don't have the depth of groundwater necessary to do a traditional, by-the-books rain garden on any of these lots.
All right, well,
I can tell you, I'm really just looking, I wanna see a natural collection to not affect hydrology. But we're draining so much of this site to two soil. So if we can take a percentage of the grading or something and treat it in a natural way. Obviously, there are gonna be areas where there are non-pollutant areas. It'd be a lot cleaner for the site. I mean, we're obviously cutting the site, there's not a lot of trees being left. So we should be able to develop some type of natural planting to absorb this and catch it prior to entering the wetlands and creating, positive hydrology back to the wetlands where it should be going.
Well, that's why
Or a percentage of it should be
we're
there.
infiltrating virtually everything on the site. And if it gets into the groundwater, it eventually gets into the water table, into the wetlands.
But it's getting there in an indirect way, in a non-natural way. And as far as I'm concerned, that's a lot of what this lid standards are is unnatural.
Well, I just have to state that we've gone through a full design that exceeds, in every case, stormwater management.
This is a virgin site. This is a virgin site, this is a permit, that could potentially be allowed to happen, with a wetlands penetration, with two crossings. We're just looking for a little more.
And are you looking for
Yes.
more with respect to the site as a whole, or with more respect to the individual house lots? Because to Bob's point, the development of the residential subdivision roadways and the potential house lots, it meets the stormwater standards and exceeds the stormwater standards, yet with these rain gardens and swale opportunities, they would be specific more towards individual house lots, which we are not trying to permit at this time, so
Correct,
would that
but
be
we are,
something the commission would be open to seeing in the future with the future NOI filings?
are we cutting and grading on this site at this time?
Well, yes.
At the development of the road, so therefore, let's say the development does not happen. So those sites now will be cut and graded, and there'll be no measures in place.
I don't
That's all it is.
The stormwater basins will all be excavated before any impervious is installed.
That's the first part of the construction program, to put in the stormwater management controls.
I think it is gonna have to come down to, what you're saying is you don't want to introduce pollutants through lid. Okay, so now it's gonna come down to the individual homes. So look at the ones that we're gonna have control over, we will require rain gardens. We're asking you to look at the ones that won't be coming before us for the possibility of dry wells and or rain gardens. That's what we're looking for.
Can I just make an observation? It seems to me, and I'm not the expert, I would love to hear from Lisa on this, but it seems to me that rain gardens are not all that exotic a measure. And so to say that we haven't had success with them, well, it seems to me that an overwhelming number of people probably have. I don't understand that. I don't understand the argument, but.
Well,
We have had great success with rain gardens, but not on an application like this. The rain garden would be the size of the detention infiltration base. They'd have to be massive to handle something like this.
but the objective here is to just improve infiltration into the ground, and I don't know if you need to install a whole rain garden when, if you're willing to grade it in a way that causes longer dwell time on the lawn, that will also achieve that. And it can be fairly subtle. You know, it doesn't have to be a huge, obvious swale. It can be, you know, slight variations. Now, of course, I don't know if people in a subdivision are open to not having a perfectly flat lawn, one with tiny irregularities that can catch rainwater. That'll be a design issue for whoever installs the grading, the final grading on these lawns. All right, so I think you got the sense that the commission's view is we want to infiltrate as much as possible by whatever means is feasible in these development areas. So I think that message is clear, whether it be a formal rain garden or not. I don't feel strongly, but or a dry well, but whatever can achieve that in a reasonable way.
I mean, we're
Mr. Chairman,
open
you're-
to, oh, go ahead, Bob.
Mr. Chairman, you're aware that we're infiltrating 100% of the runoff from the site up to including the 10-year storm event and almost up to the 100-year storm event. We're infiltrating everything.
Right, and you're directing it to 3 locations only. You're
No,
not taking advantage of the fact that
actually 4.
we want to infiltrate on each lot. That's our point. I don't know how else to make it clear. We
Well-
understand where you're coming for the bigger picture from the roadways, because you have to. But we're asking you to take it a step further.
But
So you're asking us to infiltrate runoff on the lots that are outside the buffer zones?
but
Again, I'm going back to the comment I made about the planning board usually requires it. So it's
No,
a question that's out there, and if they don't, there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to, even if it's outside the buffer zone. You are crossing an ACEC. You are filling a wetland in the ACEC. I don't think this is too much to ask.
well,
Filling of an ACEC is at the discretion of the Conservation Commission.
yeah,
You could easily have said, no go.
Lisa, if the stormwater design is consistent with the stormwater standards, we can't create new legislation to change
We're
that.
not creating new legislation. Part of the stormwater standards is to look at lid. We don't think they addressed lid to some extent. They took advantage of the fact that it's clustered, and so it's easy to say clustered it, right? That's easy. What we're asking for is, there are other elements to lid, and one of them is infiltrating locally on each site, instead of just collecting everything and sending it to 3 locations. That's what we're asking for. We're not asking for anything above and beyond the regulations. We're asking them to max out lid because of the sensitivity of this site. I don't know how else to say it.
We're happy to take a look at it. I question whether you have jurisdiction over any lot that's outside of a 100-foot buffer zone. I don't question it. I know you don't have jurisdiction over that, but we will take a
Oh,
look
I
at
don't know if you want to go there, Bob.
Take it
but we will.
All right, look, we've had a lot of discussion on this. I think the message is clear. The applicant has not said we're not gonna look at this, so how about if we move on? There are still some questions here in the audience that need to be addressed on this. Do you want to say more, Lisa?
Excuse me?
Well,
I'm done,
Okay.
I'm done.
All right,
I'm done. I think my
So-
message is very loud and clear.
okay.
Thanks.
So, any further questions from members of the commission? Because we do have to open it up to the whole audience, whether they be here in the room or on Zoom. So if there are no further questions.
Bob has a question, the different Bob.
Oh, okay. We have Bob B. raising your hand. Why don't you take your mic off mute, identify yourself, and ask a question, please.
Bob Butler, 133 Pine Street. I had a couple of comments just on this whole conversation of the water runoff. I do worry about the dry wells with maintenance because, I do think a lot of people don't maintain their gutters, so I think, there is a chance of those failing in the future. I have no idea how long they would last before they fail, but my other concern was like with the rain swells, like built into lawns. I think that would be assuming people would leave their downspouts kind of as is. But I worry like if their downspouts are just pushing the water out into their lawn and making it a big pond, are they gonna just say, okay, I'm gonna, do it myself or pay somebody and extend that downspout underground and just put it off somewhere else anyways? That's my concern with that method.
Well,
Yeah.
we can only recommend the best we can, and what people do later, we can't necessarily monitor.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, like, you want to do things that don't require a lot of maintenance or watching, because chances are, the homeowners association and the town's not gonna, after everything's built, it's not gonna be really looked at, I think, too much. So that's just my thought on that. My other questions, just unrelated. I think there was a field that was added on the left side of this map. I think a planning board member had suggested it. So I just wanted to make sure, the conservation had seen that and everything was okay with that.
Well, I'm not familiar with what that field indicates. Is that just an area where people?
So I think it was a planning board member, Bob can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think a planning board member suggested having like an open field area in the uplands, just so, kids can go play in there or something to that effect.
That's exactly right, Bob. This is Bob Forbes again. Planning board member suggested that we do a small clearing as like a picnic area or a play area for children. And so that we decided to put it out there because it was 100% upland and outside and buffer zone.
Yeah.
So right where Claire has her cursor is exactly what Mr. Butler's talking about.
Yeah, that sounds like it's outside our jurisdiction anyway, so.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you. That's all I have.
All right, we have, I think, some questions here in Winnicott room. Do we have a question on this project? Yeah, if you want to just identify yourself and ask your question.
Sure, can you hear me okay from here?
I can, and I think the system picks you up.
Andrew Dage at 87 Pine Street. I'm in the upper left-hand corner of that map right there.
Okay.
I'm glad you have that up because my question is, excuse me. So we have the wetlands that run right down along the side of my house, and I've written some letters about this. And you can see how I'm assuming that each one of those house lots are going to be raised up. It's very low down there. And some are going to have to raise them up just so they don't have wet basements, but I don't know that. It's been hard for me to read the contour lines to find out how much they're being lifted. So what I see there is the water's coming down there, it's going to hit that little culvert, which means it's, I don't know how well that water's gonna move through there. Right now, that wetland next to my house is very flooded. And you come to the back of my house, the back of my property is also underwater right now. And I'm worried that all that water is gonna come down that left side, and it's gonna be pushed that way. Those houses, if they're raised up, the water's gonna choose its nice, easy path to go the other way, and then come towards my house. Now, obviously, most of that's not my lot, but enough of it is impacted by that water, and I'm afraid it's only going to get worse. And then if that starts to push up my lawn, then my basement, I've already got, I deal with my water in my basement. I don't need it to be any worse. So that is my concern.
All right, well, just for clarification, and Claire, maybe you can help me here. It's my understanding that the water progresses from left to right on this plan. Is that correct, David?
No.
That's correct. Right here where my cursor is, we have contour elevation 83, and it descends as I'm working my way down to the right of the plan.
Okay, and I'll just comment superficially. There's been extensive discussion of the design, specifically to be sure that water flow does not change before and after. So maybe Claire, you can elaborate on that, the fact that that's correct. And so the likelihood that it would change the water flow you get now after all of this careful design and discussion is low. But Claire, if you can add.
Yeah, and I mean, Bob could even chime in if I'm misrepresenting, but the key component of meeting the Massachusetts stormwater standards is to not increase the peak flow rate or increase flooding conditions as compared to existing conditions. So ultimately, the stormwater management system and the grading design of the site is designed such that it will not impact the neighbors. We would not comply with this DEP stormwater management standards if the calculations and design demonstrated that it would impact the neighbors. So after going through the peer review, I believe, Bob, the stormwater peer review is complete at this point on behalf of the planning board and the commission. So a peer reviewer has looked at this design and agreed that we won't increase any water issues onto our neighbors' properties.
That's exactly right, Tony. You said that really well. And I also want to point out that the culverts that the abutter is concerned with are an elevation more than 10 feet below his house. So there's nothing, anywhere where we're discharging water into the wetland system off backs of lots and whatnot, is well below in elevation his house and yard. Not only that, but as you stated, it's at a much lower rate than the existing conditions entering that wetland system.
Are you not concentrating, I know you said you're dealing with the runoff, but obviously you're changing the contours of the land. Are you not, I guess I don't have really a leg to stand on, but it looks to me like you're concentrating the flow of water down between those lots.
The runoff rate, this is what, so we have, what we do is we model the existing conditions. So right now, we take the wooded lot and we model what's going to the design points. In this particular case, it's the wetland system. We get a certain flow rate going towards that. Then we do our design, and the requirement that we have to meet is that the post-development runoff rate into that wetland system, those design points, is less than what it is undercurrent. So we have, everything's modeled. The roadways, the lawns, the roofs, grading of all of this to see what direction everything is going to end up going in post-development. And when we do that, we have a reduction in the runoff rate going towards those wetlands. So it cannot and will not negatively impact your house or that wetland system or anybody's house. We're not going to flood from what we're proposing here. We're not going to have a negative impact stormwater runoff wise and anywhere from this project.
I do have another question though. So as you build this out, and you're gonna put the roads in and new construction, at what point do you start to manage the runoff? Because I know you got to put the roads in, and then, I don't know, sewers, however it is you're managing the runoff from everything. When does that mitigation begin to take effect as you're building up the lots and putting the roads in and all of that?
It's actually a really good question. And the answer to that is the stormwater management systems are what get built first before the roadways get built. So it goes stormwater, it goes erosion control, it goes stormwater management devices, roadways, then house lot development. So right from the get-go is when the stormwater management gets started.
So you're gonna rely on your post-development basins for temporary construction term stormwater management?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
You're gonna rely on your post-development stormwater basins for construction term stormwater management?
Yes,
Okay, and those are infiltration basins?
yes.
Okay, so those are gonna have to be witnessed, the conversion of those, because you're gonna have to remove the built-up sediment. So, Megan, if you could make note for, the order conditions, please?
Yep.
The conversion of those basins. Thank you.
One more question,
We're gonna
then I'm
go.
done.
Don't say that.
For now. This, of course, now becomes a follow-up down the road. What happens if we really do see so much more flooding in my backyard because of this project? What, do I have any kind of a recourse?
The conservation office is always here. You bring it to the attention of John, investigation is undertaken. But I'm gonna throw a wrinkle in this discussion. That is, we live now in an era of climate change. The design standards by which this is designed, in other words, the definition of the storm events is old data. By the old data, we have witnessed, for example, in the state of Connecticut, I believe it was either 1 year ago or 2 years ago, 2 1,000-year storms in 1 year. So we don't know what the future is going to hold. But according to today's design data, this should not impact your water issue. Go
I
ahead.
just want to put on the books that we've been living on Pine Street since all of these projects started a few years back. And we really didn't believe that any of it would have an effect. Forget the storms of this year, you know. We are seeing flooding on Pine Street, you know, that is icing in the winter and we have to drive around to get around. I think as much as we try, we are seeing changes in the water table. We are seeing different water on our property than we have seen in a long time. So we just want to do our due diligence, and climate change is one of the reasons.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but unfortunately, by the existing law, we can't design to what we think might happen. We can only design to what the data, the old data, and that is the data that is referenced
No,
in
we're
the
not
law.
asking you to do that. We just want to make sure that if it's possible, if it's within anybody's preview in this town, that our lot is also taken into consideration.
Well, every project, the intent of the Wetland Protection Act is to not allow development to impact existing houses. And I've been on the commission a long time. We really haven't seen in this town major problems with projects that are properly designed.
Well, thank you.
All right, further questions either in the room or on Zoom?
Looks like Bob, did Bob raise his
Bob,
hand?
Bob B, you have a recurrent question, or is that your old?
Yeah, no, I have another question. Yeah, Bob Butler, 132 Pine Street. The upper left wetland there, does that actually come from the other side of Pine Street to go under the road, or? The reason I'm asking is because there's 6 new houses across the street. 4 of them have been built, and 2 of them are in the process of being built, and it's kind of directly across. So those last 2 new houses are being built now. They're set way back from the road. They're like probably very close, or not, like almost partially in wetlands. So they're bringing in tons and tons of fill for those lots. So I'm just wondering if that could even impact this wetland that's coming in from that side.
Well, bear in mind, the same due diligence that this project is being designed with applied to that project as well.
Okay, so the houses there's 6 new houses, the 2 lots on the right side, looking at this map, just inside where the right road is, the right side entrance is, there's 2 new houses there. There's one very close to the road. And it's built up very high, and it's really close to the road. So when that was built, all that water coming up from that street, or from that lot rather, was going down Pine Street to the right and flooding driveways of existing houses and flooding their yards. And I know John Thomas said that they, were in trouble for that. The builder was in trouble. So I don't know if there was something missed in the plan or just in the execution, but things do happen. But then the homeowner is the one that has to really deal with it, right? So,
Well,
I'm sure it wasn't fun.
I would comment is, if there is a reproducible problem, that you are observing, it needs to be brought to the attention of John, so he can take a look at it during rain events and see what's going on.
Yeah, I believe he did he took care of it. I didn't present it, and it might be fixed now. I don't know. I mean, I hadn't really noticed an issue recently, but it could be the time of year. But things do happen. So even though even if I assume they went through the same kind of planning process, even if you have a good plan, it's not always executed correctly. So.
But at the same time, the applicant's design is reviewed by an independent expert as well, in all of these cases. Any further questions on this? If there are no further questions or comments, we do need to continue this, and John will need to review the discussion. And I believe we may be approaching the point where an order of conditions will be able to be generated, potentially at our next meeting.
Make a motion to continue the public hearing for
April 13th.
250-1203 to the April 13th meeting.
Seconded.
Motion by Lisa, seconded by Courtney. Roll call vote. I think everybody's still here, so Lisa, Dan, and Mark. How do you vote?
Aye.
Aye.
And Joe and Courtney?
Aye.
assume you threw in something there, Joe, I didn't hear it, but at any rate, is that an aye? Okay, and I'll throw in an aye. The motion carries. Thank you, Claire.
Thanks very much, everybody.
Thank you all for your time. Have a good night.
You bet. Next item on the agenda is file number 250-1204, 89 North of Washington Street. It is an ANRAD, and there are still issues. I don't know if we have an applicant, a representative of the applicant for this. There were suggestions that we may not, and we may just have to continue. So do we have a representative of the applicant? And if not,
So I thought they asked for a continuation. At least that's in my notes
Second.
from John Thomas. But anyway.
well, I think, I don't have that information, and I think we can go ahead and continue it.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Dan, seconded by Lisa. And again, roll call, Lisa, Dan, and Mark, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye.
And Joe and Courtney.
Aye.
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye. The motion carries. We are now up to our new projects. There's only one, file number 250-1205, 127 East Hodges Street, notice of intent. Do we have a representative? Yes, it looks like Craig, you're going to be presenting that?
Yes, good evening. Craig Siganowski, Rim Engineering. I believe Christopher Pope, the owner of the property, can also be on
So Craig, I think you have.
in the audience with.
Yeah, I'm here.
So, were you asking a question?
Well, I think you have a sharing capacity. Do you have a plan you can share?
I can share, yes, I can. Do you see this on your screens?
We do. You may have.
Yeah.
So a similar project came before you in 2022. I don't know who was on the commission. It was approved for John Quattrocci, who was the previous landowner. So we do have an open order of conditions that we're looking to close out as no work was begun on the project. So I don't know if that's something you need to take care of first. We filed this request first.
It is on our agenda, and we will be dealing with it, so
Okay.
I think we can proceed with this, and then we'll close out that prior inactive, or prior permit that was never acted upon.
Okay. So this is actually a 46-acre parcel of land, which we're only working on roughly an acre in the front, but, oops, sorry. The land goes back along the Taunton town and city line here, off of East Hodges Street. Mr. Polk lives next door at 123 East Hodges Street, and he purchased the property from the previous owner and is looking to build a house for his son on this property here. So we have frontage on East Hodges Street. There was a wetlands that had been confirmed by the commission back in 2022. We recovered the flags, still hanging. We placed the ones that were missing, but most of those were in this area here where they don't really affect the project. We are not working within this this particular area. It comes back to the corner of the lot, and the previous plan had a house behind this area and over behind house number 123, which is on the left end of this property, the left side of this plan, or the west side. So we have proposing a single-family house here, 51 feet back from the street. The zoning requires 50 minimum, 35 off the property line. So we meet the zoning requirements by putting it here. We have a private well, 26 feet back from the road where 25 is required. We have the 25-foot no-touch buffer zone here. Should say that the wetland resource areas included the ACEC of the 3 Mile River, as well as we are in the Rare Species Priority Habitat 602. We filed with Mesa prior to filing with the commission, and we did receive a no-take letter from Division of Fisheries and Wildlife. That was included in the filing. It was previously approved in 2022, but we refiled as we can't use the previous no-take notice. So we have like I said, the single-family house out here, the driveway coming in off the road, they have high groundwater, so we do have the foundation raised up to 102, where the natural ground is around 95. So we have grading around the driveway. The roof water goes into a Caltech recharge system here. And then the septic system comes out back, because that's where they did the test holes back in 2019, I think, or 2020. So this septic design has been approved by the Board of Health Department. It is a gravity system, but we do have to mount it up in order to get a depth over groundwater and proper grading. Along this edge of the 25-foot buffer, we are calling for a block retaining wall, excuse me, that will start near the proposed deck here, run 5 feet parallel, so we're 30 feet minimum from the wetlands, giving us room to install this retaining wall. It is less than 4 feet high. It'll stagger from 96.5 to 99.5 as we move back, in order to have the grading over the septic system meet the required 1 foot minimum over the top of the system, and then proper grading off to the sides. So we do carry that grading all the way through in order to have a relatively usable rear yard. We have a 25 feet side yard here, and as I said, a private well. So, as I said, the entire property is 46.7 acres. We're using 0.6 acres for this proposed construction. Are there any questions or comments?
Commission members?
I have a couple. So having deja vu with the last filing that we're sending water into East Hodges Street from the driveway. So perhaps John wants to look at, I know it's out of his jurisdiction, but perhaps John wants to look at that in the context of the stormwater permit. So essentially your driveway, all the runoff from your driveway is going right into East Hodges. Sheet flowing right down to East Hodges, and I think that's the problem that's compounding on Pine Street right now. So I would suggest putting a swale or something off to the side to collect that and divert it and keep it on the site.
Yeah, actually, yeah.
I think we have to start looking at this as a commission all over the place instead of just having driveways sheet flow to the public right away. Because we're making the situation worse.
Right.
So,
Listening to the previous hearing, and I was thinking about that. We should put a
thank you.
put a graded drain that catches it, and also a swale, and then a dry well off to the side to catch the runoff before we get to the road. That should have been added to the plan.
Okay. The other thing is planning on putting a visual barrier up.
Yes, well, we are showing the post with the signs, one near the road, and then as we come along this area, more in this area.
Okay, I see it. Okay. And then the last comment, I guess DEP commented about illicit fill in the property. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, I talked to John and I talked to Chris. He's in the audience. He has a better idea of it. I go back to the locus. I went online to where the DEP noted it, and back around here at the Taunton line, there's a small pond and it shows up on their screen, they highlighted it in red as being what they call man, I forget exactly the wording, but something disturbed by men or people. Chris has a better idea that there's a neighbor in the back that he thinks is responsible for that. I don't know exactly what it is. It shows up as being in the middle of a swamp, so I'm not sure. But it's approximately a half mile behind where we're working, though it is on the same property.
So it looks like, I'm back by the way, everybody, so.
Okay.
So it looks like to me, when I did some aerial, I guess, investigation on that historic fill, that originated when the blue, I can't remember, is it Blue View or is it Blue?
Blue View Nursery?
No.
Bluegrass.
Bluegrass. The Bluegrass development went in. It seemed that when that was nearing completion, that that wetland was somehow filled in magically. So I take it into consideration because it looked like their developer was out there doing some sort of work that maybe he tried to get rid of some things that might be on Mr. Polk's property currently. Obviously, if I don't know who the developer was that built that community, but I would leave it up to Mr. Polk to decide whether he wants to pursue any sort of legal matters with that developer moving forward. But it doesn't seem like it's in anywhere near where he's proposing to do any work for this new construction of this residence. And I've already talked to Jacqueline Sidman about this from DEP regarding this, but she just wanted to bring it to our attention.
So because, is kind of not making sense to me. So there's a violation of the property. I understand that it's not the landowner or the property owner's fault.
Yeah, go ahead.
But what does that mean? It's going to continue as a violation just because they're not building anywhere else on the site, or you just let it go?
No, I'm not saying let it go. I'm saying, for instance, obviously Mr. Polk did not do the work and was not responsible for it, so he's going to have to take whatever action that he needs to resolve this matter as part of this. Obviously, this occurred before the last time that we issued a permit, and this is where I'm kind of saying that, we already issued a permit for this property and it wasn't an issue at the time. Now it currently is, because someone from DEP, looked at the impacts from 2005 or whatever it is, to see what the wetland change was. I don't want to hold up the issuance of a permit because of that, but I also think that it's definitely something that's in Mr. Polk's best interest to resolve. I don't know, Chris, do you want to speak on that?
Yeah, well, if I understand this correctly, what they saw, one of the neighbors on Bluegrass Circle was using the property and moving materials back and forth off the property.
Okay.
I approached the neighbor and advised him that he needed to have all of that removed.
Okay.
Which he did.
Okay.
So that it actually has been removed. I found it before any of this. I originally came to John right after I bought the property and explained that this had happened. And I wanted to know what I needed to do to correct it at that time. And John, basically told me to go talk to the other landowner, which I did. And he did go on the property, and he has removed everything, and he has stopped everything that he was doing in that area.
He also went through a conservation restriction, I believe, right?
Yes.
Okay. That's in Taunton?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he was crossing multiple properties doing things he shouldn't have been doing. And his comment to me was, oh, I thought it was all my land. And when he said that to me, I'm like, well, funny story. When I own something, I know what I own, and I know where it begins, and I know where it ends. So I'm pretty sure you knew this wasn't your property. But it has been addressed, and it has been corrected. And also, I'd like to point out, the approval that was already given for this property, the driveway was a lot longer. It was going all the way around behind my house. And I don't think there was any kind of controls put in place for that. Also, I had just noticed today, when I was going over the plans, the front elevations are off by approximately 2 feet, because there's a drive-in garage in the front of the house, and the garage is 2 feet lower than the house foundation, so those levels need to come down 2 feet.
And I will address that in the revised plan.
Yeah, and then where the house is also placed, you'll see it in the next thing, that was actually a pole barn. So I renamed the pole barn a house, I used the septic in the same place, and I reduced the impact, you know, greater than it was, you know, it's a lot less than it was originally, because, you know, I was always adamant about trying to do as little as possible on this lot.
All right, further questions from either the commission or anyone else in the meeting? So again, this has to be continued, but there are also some minor changes in the plan. So if there are no further questions or comments, we can consider a motion to continue until April 13th.
So moved.
Second?
So we have a motion by Lisa, seconded by Mark, and again, Lisa, Dan, and Mark, how do you vote?
Aye. Aye.
And Joe and Courtney.
Aye.
I don't know, is Joe still here? I don't see him.
Yeah,
Okay, there we go.
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye, so the motion carries. Thank you, Craig. So we are now up to request for a certificate of compliance, and as was mentioned during the hearing, we have an old permit that needs to be closed out. That's file number 250-1113, 127 East Hodges Street. And the request is that certificate of compliance be issued, as no work has been done on the prior permit.
I'll make a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for 250-1113 for lack of.
Well, I was, before we go too far,
All right.
I want to make sure that the next project is going to go through before we close this one out.
So for instance, Mr. Polk's here this evening because he wants to make sure before we close the meeting that we would issue for the new project that's in front of us, that because we can't
Does he
close.
not want us to vote on it tonight then?
I don't think he wants you to vote on it tonight in case there's
I
any
will
issues.
rescind my motion. No problem.
All right, so we're gonna table this till next time.
Yeah.
Continue.
All right, next item is file number 250-1091, Norton High School Athletic Improvement. And do we need that be discussed by a representative? I assume from...
I mean, the information was provided to us, Kyle Rowan, who is not available, but Peter Spanos and Ryan Thackeray from Gale are on tonight if we have any questions. But I looked through all the information. It seems like they touched on everything based on what the commission was requesting at the last discussion for basically, you know, putting the final stamp of approval on from an engineering standpoint. Everything meets the 10 standards according to their information. It just needs the Conservation Commission's confirmation that what was there or what is currently there meets the stormwater standards.
Yeah, that was the only question, that whether or not the additional flow into that system could be accommodated by the design modifications that were done. It would have made it easier if the commission had been involved in the process. And now we're asking you to say yes. All the calculations show the additional flow will not overwhelm the system. So Ryan, do you want to deal that?
Yeah, sure. So we revised our existing and our post sort of as-built condition stormwater to account for that sort of finding and reconstruction about that.
Sorry, can't hear you.
Can you hear me at all, or just quiet?
That's really faint,
You're not very loud.
really faint.
You're really faint. Yes.
Is that any better?
That is much
Yeah.
better.
Yes.
Okay, sorry
Yes,
about that.
indeed.
Okay, sorry. So, yes, we redid the hydraulic modeling, both for the existing condition and the proposed condition, which we're calling the as-built condition now, to account for the high school roof and that section of the parking lot that was being conveyed to the wetlands through the stormwater infrastructure that we encountered during construction. And that's included. I think we get both the revised existing and the new proposed as-built modeling are included as attachments in that letter that we sent over.
All right, and as I understand it, John, you're satisfied with what you saw?
I am satisfied from the information. It was over above and beyond what I expected, so thank you guys.
Okay, so it's...
So we don't see the need to have this peer reviewed.
Well, that's the question that I asked the commission, and whether you guys want it peer reviewed or not. I don't think we have any
That's
more.
still the question, because we put it this way, they had stopped midway, they'd stopped before they even started construction, or even during construction, brought it to us and said, hey, we have this change. We would have had a peer review. So I'm just curious as to what the thinking is that we don't need a peer review now.
Well, let's review it then. Let's
Well,
get one.
I'm just asking the question. I'm not a stormwater expert. I cannot sign off on this as a peer reviewer, and I think that, I don't know, I mean, John, you kind of left it open to us to say it meets the standard. I don't know. Just throwing it out there.
I am not a professional engineer either, so.
Yeah, so the question is it worth having somebody look at it?
This is Peter Sparrows. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
So the question, Julian, right? So Julian, you mentioned the previous comment of that these additional flows were taken into account. So I just want to make it clear that these, once we encountered those lines were always going through the track and discharging to the other side toward the wetlands, and the track's drainage system was connected to those lines. All we did is when we encountered those lines, we were going to tie in our overflow outlet control structure for the track and turf field on the down gradient side, because those two lines that were encountered coming through our track and through the turf field were going to be now crossing our pipes, our header pipes, at 4 locations. We put 4 outlet control structures at each one of those 4 locations. So instead of putting it at the downstream end, we kept it where our new stormwater system was connecting into that line. So Ryan's calculations that we provided show that there's no increase. Our flows that were coming from the turf field, remember this turf field is basically, if you think about it, it's a 2-acre, 1-foot deep pond that's full of stone. You got 40% voids in it. All that stores water. Over 30,000 cubic feet of water gets stored there, infiltrating to the maximum extent practical the whole time, and only being released at a controlled rate. So we were not changing anything as far as the flows go. The flows for however many decades were always going to that discharge point. We encountered it, we made the same connections, and we gave it at a controlled rate. So flooding or anything like that is a function of rate, right? Per the regulations and per physics. We are discharging via the outlet control structures at a lower rate at all required design storm events. Therefore, we are not increasing anything downstream. And that's why that whole letter that we gave you, John, is kind of all detailed, because we were trying to show the backup to that, the signs to that.
Yeah, well, but I
That
think,
makes sense?
well, the original issue is, we didn't know where those inflow pipes that
Yeah,
cross
nobody
the
did.
track came from.
Exactly.
And we had to be sure that there wasn't gonna be a massive inflow that would overwhelm the whole system. And you're saying you are comfortable that, no, the inflow is not that massive, and the system will still function.
Yeah, yes, and to clarify, what I'm saying is when we count those pipes have remained unchanged. They're carrying that water as they always did through the field and discharging it as they always did. I don't know how many decades it's been doing this. There's never been any reported of any surcharging, any bubbling of any of the catch basins. To our knowledge, the school and everything rated them. So we're connecting to the same spot. We're just connecting to a little bit upgrading of that. At the end of the day, we're still discharging to the same as there always was.
Okay? I mean, my personal opinion is that I'm not sure what a peer review would achieve. I mean, Lisa, do you have a thought on that, or?
Well, I mean, the way Peter explained it was really good, but I think also think in the end, if the town has an issue with it and the system doesn't work, they just go back to Gale, that's all. That's the chance the town has to take. That's okay.
And in fact, you know, Gale is signing off on it.
Yeah.
They are responsible for any failings in the future should this not
I'm good.
function well.
I'm good with that.
All right? So with that discussion, do we have a motion for issuing of a certificate of compliance for file number 250-1091?
So moved.
Seconded.
So we have a motion by Lisa, seconded by Courtney, and Lisa, Dan, and Mark. How do you vote?
Aye.
Aye.
And Joe and Courtney.
Aye.
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye, the motion carries. Thank you guys for your discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you guys very much.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Last item on the agenda is issuing a order of conditions for 0 East Hodges Street, file number 250-1199, concerning a temporary wetland crossing to get to uplands. It has multiple custom items, for example, the A1.
So John, I had comments on the first one.
Yes.
I think you should take the word following. You should just say the resource areas. 'Cause when I read that sentence, I was looking for the,
Oh, yes. I will take that out.
I was looking for the list. I'm like, where is it?
There is no list for that one. That's an
Okay.
easy one.
Okay. And then we have the restoration. We talked about the restoration.
Mm-hmm.
So is it the restoration of if the wetlands are impacted, or is it the restoration of the, any disturbance from the vehicle, from construction equipment? I guess that's what I'm after on, page 2 of 6.
Yes, so you're talking about the stuff that I have in there about we're talking about the what if, impacts?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess we could add some more language in there, how it's created, or what results from it, whether it's from the vehicle, or is that what you're inferring?
Well, no, my point is that, so 13 talks to subsequent mitigation areas, but what about just, all right, so say they're in the buffer zone and they had to, you know, some of the ground was disturbed or chewed up through the operation of equipment.
So you're talking about like
What's the
running?
rest?
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, any disturbance.
Okay.
So anything that I think should be, so we're talking about outside of the wetland. And I think that we should just add a condition to this that says all ground disturbance, right?
Okay.
All ground disturbance. should be restored or stabilized when they leave, that's all,
Okay.
that's all.
Okay. Yeah, this is a very unique one, I will say.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, the original thought, going while the ground is frozen is no longer an issue. They'll just have to wait now for the low water. And I don't know how.
I don't know that it's no longer an issue because of the NESHA finding. So they'd have to go back to NESHA for a finding on that, because NESHA is required frozen.
Oh, so it's no longer frozen, so they can't do it this season?
They'll probably have
According to
to,
NESHA,
they'll probably have to coordinate with Natural Heritage and get confirmation from them. So the condition that I would say there is prior to them doing construction, or this is pre-construction meeting, that we get confirmation from NESHAP saying that all matters surrounding NESHAP have been addressed or have been modified for non-frozen conditions. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right.
John, I did want to bring up, I know I mentioned it early on, I don't know if now's the time to bring it up, but
You can, you can bring up whatever you want.
a bond in this situation for the restoration. You know, I don't know if the rest of the board knows, John and I had the opportunity to walk this road, and there are definitely some things that will be disturbed.
Yeah, we used to require bonds all the time, for years and years and years, we required bonds to be posted.
So
Because they owe us nothing on this at the end, just to make sure if this does not happen or happens, that the restoration effort happens.
Exactly.
It's quite a significant crossing.
So I guess the question then becomes is what's the value amount of a bond for this kind of magnitude of project? I guess that's the question. And
We used to have Earl, the farmer, he'd give us the bond,
well, now we have Joe the farmer to give us the bond.
Joe the farmer now, so you have to give us an estimate. Joe, is it?
Do we have a comparator from prior projects?
I mean, I could look through a lot of old orders and see what the value at that time was, but at the same point, I'd have to cross-calculate inflation and different types of things like
It
that.
depends on the acreage, right? How many acres or how many square feet, what your media is, are you gonna hydro seed it, what would you do to stabilize it?
I mean, there's
Joe?
there's some tree removal that has to happen. There's, you know, some smaller shrubbing and white pines in the jurisdiction area. It's not it's not horrible, but it's not.
Is it 20 grand? Is it 15 grand? Is it?
It depends on how rough they are.
What's that?
It depends on how rough they are. You know, there definitely could have been a little more alternative path taken, as we saw, you know, where there were not as many trees. Seeing it as the snow was melting, you know, and
So we would not only need the bond to include ground stabilization, but potentially replanting of trees.
yeah, and depending on the time of entry, it could be, you know, understory.
So you're gonna swag it for us, Joe?
Don't know how to pull that one out. I'm not as fresh on that one as, but
Well, so here's an idea. I wonder if we can ask the applicant to come up with one, because let me put it this way. Outside of the tree planting, right, they have to get a quote from somebody to hydro seed, to stabilize the site, so why not ask them?
it's definitely a forested site for sure. But, yeah. It's definitely understory.
Do we want to put in a pre-construction requirement that the applicant will be responsible for quantifying and
Well,
identifying.
providing a cost estimate to stabilize the site, right, and to mitigate. So I think with that, we should be very specific. So let's talk about 13 and then the new condition that we're gonna add about stabilization, right? So maybe we ask them to come with to post a bond with a quote. We're gonna need an actual quote from a subcontractor that addresses number, whatever the new number is for just stabilization of, in the buffer, plus number 13. Does that make sense?
Is it acceptable to ask for more than one quote? Because I guess my concern is like, you're gonna try to do it for the cheapest price possible, and that may not be the best option, and I wonder if it wouldn't make sense to have some sort of median.
Wetland scientist?
Scientist, or we can just put a contingency on it and add 20% to it. Or some percentage, right?
But the bond isn't necessarily gonna pay for the restoration. It's only an insurance item that if the applicant walks away from the project with leaving a lot of work on.
Right, then we pull the bond and we pay a contractor to do the work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the discussion is we'll add the bond requirement?
I mean, yeah, I think that's on the table right now. I think that's the consensus of the group here is they're looking for a bond potentially for this unique project in case there's a issue that happens afterwards that needs restoration efforts.
All right, so you'll be adding that?
I will add a clause in there, yes.
Okay.
I don't know what the number is going to be, but I can.
Well, no, we asked them to provide, well, they're gonna have to post it prior to the start of work.
Right.
So it's gonna be a pre-meeting condition.
Pre-construction meeting, yes.
Yes.
So
pretty.
It will be the first item under the pre-construction line item. That's the first thing they're gonna provide us.
Okay.
Or
So
probably,
my procurement team always makes me get 3 quotes, and then they ask me to provide a rationale for the company I'm going with.
All right, that sounds great. I like that rationale. We're gonna use that language verbatim. Thanks, Courtney.
So maybe 2, at least 2 quotes, and it's gonna be it's 2 parts, right? One is just stabilization of all disturbed areas, and number 2, if they disturb, if they had to revegetate the whole corridor. So hopefully they're gonna understand what the bond is gonna be for, but we need just how to make it clear.
Yeah, it's almost gonna be like a two-phaser.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So if that's all we have, I will make a motion to issue these order conditions for file.
hold on, ladies, I got one more.
Oh,
No
sorry.
more.
Okay.
15, E15. Can we remove the language heavy machinery and just insert equipment?
Yeah, we can do that.
Which one's that, Joe?
Section E, movement, maintenance of equipment, number 15. It's yellow highlighted.
Oh, I see, okay.
Yeah.
What did you want there?
So any equipment, any construction.
Any equipment,
Okay.
any construction equipment.
Or just equipment shall not be stored, is that what you're thinking, Joe?
Yeah, that's typically what the EPA
Yeah.
requires.
Just equipment, takes, who says heavy, who says light, equipment is just equipment. And even a shovel, it's equipment. So,
Okay, you good?
I'm good now, thank you very
Okay.
much.
All right, so we'll continue that motion to issue the order for 250-1199 as discussed.
Okay.
All right, we need a second there.
Second.
Joe can second it.
Okay. Motion by Lisa, seconded by Joe. And again, Lisa, Dan, and Mark, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye.
And Joe and Courtney.
Aye.
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye, the motion carries. And I think we are at the end of our,
Yeah, can I ask one question of Megan?
Yeah.
I'm really tired of seeing, wet signature requirements. Can you tell us who to get? I'm gonna put my fellow commission people on the spot. Who is it?
I don't know what that means.
that means you have to come in
You
and
have to
sign
come in and
something.
sign something, so
Okay,
I
so-
believe it's,
thought I already
Courtney
did
and
that.
Mark
It's Courtney and Mark, right?
and,
blood.
No, well,
I think,
can it be someone else's blood?
I think Joe gave us weddings.
yeah, I have Joe, I have, Dan. I think I need you too, Lisa.
No, I did it back in October or something.
No, this is from
No.
February.
I'm sorry, Megan, you still need my signature?
No, you were like the second one.
Too? All right. I thought I did it.
All right, so Megan's gonna send out an email to you all that need to sign tomorrow.
I've been sending it out for months.
So, do you
I didn't think
need,
it was me. I'm like, I'm tired of seeing this.
do you need directions as to how to find the office in town, in the new town hall?
Well, Lisa, you have to sign the minutes anyway, so you're gonna have to come in anyway.
Okay, all right, I'll be there Friday.
All
Okay.
right, sounds good.
All right, I think our last item of business is a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion by Dan, seconded by Courtney. And again, Lisa, Dan, and Mark, how do you vote?
Aye.
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 Joe and Courtney.
Aye.
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye. Okay,
All right.
thank God it was a short agenda.